I wanted this album for years. I knew the music. I knew it belonged in my collection. But knowing you want a record and finally finding the right copy are two very different things. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dave's Side One. I'm Dave, your host who knows that sometimes the records we remember most are the ones that made us wait. Over here at Art of Listening Records, where every record has a story, and every story starts on Side One. Today we're talking about Paper Money by Montrose, an album that I wanted for years before I finally found the right copy. Every collector has a list. Sometimes it's written down, sometimes it lives in an app, and sometimes it exists only in the back of our minds. These are the records we look for whenever we enter a store. We scan the artist section, we check the new arrivals, we look through the same bins even though we looked through them the week before. For me, Paper Money was one of those records. Walking down Dave's memory lane, we can talk about Montrose's first album had already established the kind of power this band could produce. Ronnie Montrose's guitar, Sammy Hagar's voice, a rhythm section that could hit hard without making the songs feel heavy or slow. But Paper Money had its own personality. It still had force, it still had guitar, but it also felt less predictable. Songs like I Got the Fire, The Dreamer, Starliner, and the title track gave the album an identity that kept pulling me back. This was not simply another album I wanted to sample, I wanted it on the shelf. Today, it's easy to say that the search should not matter. You can hear the album online. You can stream the songs. You already know what it sounds like, and all of that may be true. But collectors understand that access and ownership are different experiences. I wanted to hold the cover. I wanted to read the credits. I wanted to put the record on the turntable and see it sitting beside the other Montrose albums. I didn't need the record in order to know the music. I wanted the record because the music already mattered. I could have bought the first copy I saw, but buying a record you've wanted for years creates expectations. You start thinking about condition, the jacket, the vinyl, the pressing, the price, and whether the copy in front of you is the one you'll be happy to keep. Sometimes patience has nothing to do with finding the rarest version. Sometimes it's simply about finding the copy that feels right, the one that makes you stop searching. When I finally found this copy at the Record Archive in Rochester, New York, the decision felt different from an ordinary purchase. There was no question about whether I knew the album, no question about whether I would play it, no question about whether it belonged in the collection. The decision had already been made years earlier. All that remained was finding the record. And when I finally put it on the turntable, the first spin carried the weight of all that waiting. The album hadn't changed, but the moment certainly had. Collectors sometimes complain about how long it takes to find a record, and I understand that frustration. But the wait can also create a story. You remember the stores you checked, the copies you passed on, the times you almost bought one, and the moment the search finally ended. The record becomes connected not only to the music, but to the patience it required. So on tonight's Side One spin, what album did you wait years to own? Maybe it was difficult to find. Maybe every copy was too expensive. Maybe you kept waiting for one in better condition. Or maybe life simply kept putting other priorities ahead of it. Tell me the record, how long you waited, and where you finally found it. Well, that's it for today's Side One. Thanks for spending a little time with me once again, and please keep that needle in the groove. And we will talk to you tomorrow when I tell you about what it felt like to finally find a first pressing of an album that belongs in every serious hard rock collection. We'll talk to you tomorrow.